Okay, hello students. All right, so we have Kenneth, who has decided to volunteer his services by reading and doing the last circle map, which is for Rockefeller. So let's go ahead and get started. Everybody pay attention. Here we go.
Born July 8, 1839, died May 23, 1937. Rockefeller moved with his family to Cleveland, Ohio in 1853, and 6 years later he established his first enterprise, a commission business dealing in hay, grain, meats, and other goods. Sensing the commercial potential of expanding oil production in western Pennsylvania in the early 1860s, he built his first oil refinery near Cleveland in 1863. Within 2 years, it was the largest refinery in the area, and thereafter Rockefeller devoted himself exclusively to the oil business.
Okay, pause. What sticks out so far? He's the leader of what industry?
Oil.
Oil industry. And he's gonna focus in dominating on building, taking control of what step of oil manufacturing. He's going to be interested in. Starts with the letter R, and they're all around us when we get on the road. No, oil, not rigs, but you're onto it. Refineries. So he's going to dominate refineries. Okay? Okay, so let's go back to the reading. Here we go.
In 1870, Rockefeller and a few associates incorporated the Standard Oil Company, Ohio, because of Rockefeller's emphasis on economical operations. Standard Oil prospered and began to buy out its competitors. By 1872, it controlled nearly all refineries in Cleveland. That fact enabled the company to negotiate with railroads for favored rates on its shipments of oil. It acquired pipelines and terminal facilities, purchased competing refineries in the other cities, and vigorously sought to expand its markets in the United States and abroad. By 1882, it had a near monopoly of the oil business in the United States.
Okay, so what's the name of his company? Important. What's the name of his company?
I can't see. Look.
Oh.
You have your own paper, don't you?
No, he doesn't.
We can't read it.
Hey, you gotta pay attention. What? Standard Oil. Put it down. He owned the Standard Oil Company. So when you see Standard Oil, you're going to think of who? Rockefeller. Okay, so we're going back to the reading. Oh, he had a near monopoly, which is he had 90% of the refineries in America. Okay. Okay, here we go.
Rockefeller was able to find ways around state laws regulating corporations by creating a trust. For example, Standard Oil was an Ohio corporation that was forbidden by law from owning factories in other states or holding stock in out-of-state corporations. His solution was to set up a 9-man board of trustees to control the trust. Instead of being a corporation that sold stock to investors, Standard Oil became a trust that issued trust certificates. Through this new type of business, Rockefeller gobbled up the entire industry without worrying about breaking corporate anti-monopoly laws. The idea was soon copied in other industries, and by early 1890s, more than 5,000 separate companies had been organized into 300 trusts.
Okay, so here's Rockefeller. He is being a clever business owner to get around the rules to make money. Okay, cool it. To get around the rules. He did stuff like he changed laws are written in words. And if you start messing around with the words, like he stopped calling stops, he started calling them what? Trusts. So put that on your thing. He started calling stops, not trusts. Trust, not just the word, but trust, trust certificates. So he started messing with the wording. He also he wanted to avoid the word monopoly. He started using the word trust. Okay, so a trust is the same thing as a what? A monopoly, but the wording is going to help him avoid some of the rules for a while. Okay, so a trust is a monopoly, and stocks are trust certificates. Now, let me show you what a trust looks like. You know what a monopoly is? A monopoly is when a company or person controls an entire industry. So they put some heat under his feet. So he's got to think quick. So he comes up with what's called a trust. He hires 9 guys to be in charge, and it looks like he's not in charge anymore. Hey, it's them. But is he really still in charge? Yes. And this is what it looks like. Okay, so this here is a hamburger trust. Let's say instead of oil, he is in the business of hamburgers. So he would have 3 companies. Let's say it was McDonald's, Burger King, and Wendy's. And so you think you get mad at McDonald's, you go, I'm going to Burger King. But you're still spending money, still the same company. But it looks like there's competition. Does that make sense? And they can work together to do what?
Trade off customers.
You can control the what?
Money.
The prices.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? So it looks like, but they all have the same high prices. Okay? So you're not escaping the monopoly, are you? It just looks like there's competition. The law says you cannot monopolize. Is this going to give trouble to the laws? Okay? All right. So that is a trust, and the trust is the same thing as a monopoly. Okay? All right. So, and let me just mention right quick too. Carnegie used vertical integration. Rockefeller's going to use what? Horizontal integration. So draw a horizontal line this time. Okay? This direction now. Okay? Because he dominates one of the steps. And what does he dominate? Which part of oil manufacturing does he dominate?
Refineries.
Refineries. So, refinery. 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 And so forth, right? So he dominates that 90% of them, right? So he creates a monopoly, an oil monopoly, okay, using horizontal integration. Okay? So that's what he used, horizontal integration. He dominates the refineries. Okay? All right, so let's go back to the reading. And here we go.
Many Americans regarded Standard Oil as a ruthless monopoly. The aggressive, competitive practices of Standard Oil and the growing public hostility towards monopolies caused some industrialized states to enact anti-monopoly laws. This eventually led to the passage of the U.S. Congression of the Sherman Antitrust Act in 1890. In 1892, the Ohio Supreme Court held the Standard Oil Trust was a monopoly in violation of an Ohio law prohibiting monopolies. Rockefeller escaped the decision by dissolving the trust and transferring its properties to companies in other states, which, with interlocking
Help him out.
directorates,
That's correct.
directorates, so that the same 9 men controlled the operations of the companies. In 1899, these companies were bought back together in a holding company, Standard Oil Company, New Jersey. This new version of Standard Oil existed until 1911, when the U.S. Supreme Court declared it in violation of the Sherman Antitrust Act and therefore illegal.
Okay, so what's the law that's trying to control, that was put in place to control monopolies? What's the name of it? What's the name of the law? It's right in front of your face. Put your mask on. Yeah. What's the law? Okay, let me give you a hint. Another word for law is act. What's the term? Sherman Antitrust Act. Okay? This law was on the books for some years, and it wasn't being used. Now, what's a trust? What's a trust? A monopoly. What does it mean? Anti, against trust. But it wasn't being enforced. Okay? Now, so let me tell you who caused Rockefeller to go to court. It was a woman by the name of Ida Tarbell. Write her name down. Ida Tarbell. And her name is easy to remember when it comes to Standard Oil, because what is tar made of? Oil. So that's kind of convenient, isn't it, to remember? She was what's called a muckraker, which is a journalist to expose corruption in society. So she wrote an awesome article in McClure's magazine explaining to America what a trust was and that Rockefeller had a trust. That put so much pressure on Teddy Roosevelt to enforce the law. That's the job of the president, isn't it? To enforce the law. She made him enforce the Sherman Antitrust Act, and that went after Standard Oil. Long story short, Standard Oil found different ways to do this, do that, do this, do this, do that, do that, do that. Now it's ExxonMobil. Okay? Who knows anybody that works at ExxonMobil? This is the history of ExxonMobil. Okay? All right, so Ida Tarbell didn't even have the right to vote, but the power of her pen was still strong. Okay? All right, so what do you call people, a journalist that exposes corruption?
Annoying.
A muckraker, say it. Muckraker. Okay? All right, so let's go ahead and go back and read some more. Here we go.
Rockefeller was a devout Baptist and during the 1890s turned his attention to philanthropy, charity work. After 1897, he devoted himself completely to charity organizations. He made possible the founding of the University of Chicago in 1892, and by the time of his death, he had given more than $80 million. In association with his son, he created major philanthropic institutions, including the Rockefeller Institute for Medical Research, renamed Rockefeller University in New York around 1901. The General Education Board made in 1902, and the Rockefeller Foundation made in 1913. Rockefeller's donations during his lifetime totaled more than $500 million.
Write the word philanthropy. How much money did he give away?
Millions.
What's the last thing say? The last thing we read. 500 million during his lifetime alone. Okay, so what's some of the major things he did? Philanthropic.
Build medical
facilities. Wasn't it 2 universities? What were the universities? Rockefeller University and the University of Chicago. Okay? All right, so you can see that all 3 men had captains of industry attributes, robber baron attributes. What did Rockefeller do as far as his competitors? He would, remember the video yesterday? He would buy them and sometimes do what to them? Get rid of them. Shut it down. So he took it over that way. Okay? So anyway, so he had attributes of robber baron, and all 3 had attributes of being what? Charity. What's the word? Philanthropic. Okay? Thank you so much, Jimmy.